Have you ever sat alone in the quiet of the night, the city lights a distant, indifferent glimmer, and felt a profound sense of weariness settle deep into your bones? It's a feeling that transcends simple tiredness. It's the heavy, hollow ache of having given everything you have day after day in a world that never seems to stop demanding more. You scroll through your phone, a silent observer of lives curated to perfection, and a quiet disorientation creeps in. The goals you were told to chase, the victories you were conditioned to celebrate, they start to feel distant, almost meaningless. It's as if you've been running a marathon for so long that you've forgotten why you even started, the finish line a perpetually receding mirage. The silence of your room is a stark contrast to the noise in your head, a cacophony of expectations, responsibilities, and the relentless unspoken pressure to keep winning, to keep climbing, to never, ever fall behind. There's this deep-seated belief, almost a cultural mandate, that losing is a form of failure. But as the years pass, as the initial fervor of youth tempers into a more seasoned observation of life, you begin to see things differently. You see the cracks in the facade of perpetual success. You witness the quiet collapses of those who refused to bend, who held on to their victories with such a white-knuckled grip that they were shattered when their hands were inevitably pried open. This quiet night, surrounded by the ghosts of your own battles, you start to question the very definition of winning. You realize that the narrative is more complex, more nuanced. It's not about avoiding defeat. It's about understanding its place in the larger, often brutal tapestry of survival. It's a thought that doesn't offer easy comfort, but a strange, anchoring clarity. No one ever sets out to lose, to taste the bitterness of defeat, but perhaps, just perhaps, winning isn't always the ultimate prize. Sometimes, winning today is simply the prelude to a far greater loss tomorrow, a Pyrrhic victory that costs you your future, your peace, your very self. The young and the inexperienced, they are terrified of losing. To them, every defeat is a personal indictment, a glaring stain on their record, a public declaration of their inadequacy. They see each contest, each argument, each project as a standalone battle that must be won at all costs. Their pride is a fragile, untested thing, and the fear of it being dented is all-consuming. They will burn bridges, sacrifice relationships, and exhaust their resources for the sake of a single momentary triumph. They cannot yet see the war for the battles. They haven't lived long enough to understand that some victories are traps, gilded cages that lock you into a path you never intended to walk. They fear the sting of a single loss, the temporary dip in their trajectory, not realizing that the game of life is infinitely longer and more complex than any single encounter. But the experienced, those who bear the quiet scars of many seasons, they fear something else entirely. They fear losing everything. They have seen how a single ill-conceived victory pursued with blind stubbornness can lead to a catastrophic, irreversible downfall. They understand that sometimes the most strategic move is a calculated retreat, losing one step, conceding a minor point, or walking away from a fight that cannot be truly won is infinitely better than losing the entire game. They have learned that in some battles, retreating isn't an act of cowardice, it is an act of profound strategic wisdom. It is the quiet acknowledgement that there is still a way out, another path to take, another day to fight. They see the bigger picture. They know their resources are finite, their energy precious. To them, preserving the ability to continue is the ultimate victory. They retreat not because they are weak, but because they are strong enough to know that their survival, their future, is more important than their pride in this single fleeting moment. Life, in its vast and often indifferent sweep, does not hand out trophies for stubbornness. It doesn't pat you on the back for holding your ground until you shatter into a million pieces. It is a relentless flowing river, and it only keeps afloat those who have learned how to be flexible, how to bend with the current instead of trying to stand against its full, overwhelming force. The tree that is too rigid, too unyielding in its stance, is the first to be snapped in half by the storm. Its strength becomes its very undoing. The reed, however, bends low, almost to the ground.
It yields to the wind, letting the gale pass over it, and when the storm subsides, it rises again, intact. There is a profound lesson in that. A little more flexibility, a little less attachment to being right will allow you to endure far longer. You will see more seasons, witness more sunrises, and have more opportunities to grow. There will be times, many times, when you are faced with a choice. You can fight to the bitter end, draining your reserves, your spirit, your very lifeblood for a victory that is slipping through your fingers. Or you can make the difficult, humbling choice to accept defeat. This acceptance isn't a surrender of your will. It is a strategic decision made to save what truly matters: your life, your capital, your future. It's about preserving the core of your strength so that you can rebuild, regroup, and re-engage with the world from a position of renewed power. It's the quiet, mature understanding that some mountains are not meant to be conquered today. Sometimes you must walk around them, saving your energy for the climbs that will actually lead you to where you need to go. To accept a loss is to choose the future over the present moment's pride. Losing in and of itself is not the end. It is merely an event, a data point on the long, winding graph of your existence. The game is not over simply because you have fallen, if you still possess the will and the capacity to stand back up. The fall can be a lesson, a painful but necessary recalibration. It can teach you about the terrain, about your own limits, about the nature of your adversaries. It can be the very thing that makes you stronger, wiser, and more resilient for the journey ahead. The truly dangerous thing, the terminal condition, is not the act of losing. It is losing while clinging desperately to a mindset of refusing to give up, even when all logic and evidence points to the futility of the struggle. It is the inability to recognize when a battle is lost and to pivot your strategy accordingly. You see it happen. There are people who do not die from the loss itself. They die from their refusal to lose. They pour their life, their fortune, their relationships into a black hole, a lost cause, driven by a pride that has become a self-destructive engine. They cannot or will not utter the words, "I was wrong," or "this is not working." They double down, then triple down until there is nothing left. Their identity becomes so enmeshed with the idea of winning this one particular fight that they cannot envision a life beyond it. And so, when the final inevitable collapse comes, it takes everything with it. They are not defeated by their opponent or by circumstance. They are defeated by their own inflexibility, their own ego. They die because they could not accept a small death to ensure their larger survival. Knowing how to win takes strength. It requires discipline, effort, and a competitive fire. But knowing how to lose, how to consciously choose to accept a defeat for a greater strategic purpose, that requires wisdom. It requires a level of self-awareness and emotional detachment that is incredibly rare. It demands that you separate your ego from the outcome, to see the situation with a cold, clear-eyed pragmatism. Not everyone is clear-headed enough in the heat of the moment to step back and say with a calm finality, "That's enough." The temptation to push a little harder, to risk a little more, is a siren song that has led many to their ruin. But those who can say it, those who have cultivated the wisdom to know their limits and to recognize a losing hand, they are almost always the ones who survive. They are the ones who, after the dust settles, still have something left in the tank. They have their health, their sanity, their core relationships, and a seed of capital to plant for a new venture. They are the ones who still have a chance to start over. Their ability to accept a loss is not a sign of weakness, but the ultimate expression of their strength. It is the strength to prioritize long-term survival over short-term victory, the wisdom to live to fight another day on a battlefield of their own choosing. So, if today you are forced to lose, if you have to retreat from a position you once held or abandon a project you poured your heart into, do not immediately brand yourself a failure. Take a breath, look around. As long as you are still alive, as long as your spirit is not entirely broken, as long as you are still standing on your own 2 feet, then you have not truly lost. As long as you have preserved a way out, a path forward, no matter how narrow or difficult it may seem, then life is not over for you yet. This loss is not your final chapter. It is a plot twist, a difficult turn in the narrative, but the story continues. There are times when losing is a way to survive, and those who understand that, those who can embrace the painful wisdom of a strategic retreat, are usually the ones who go very far in the end.